Hello, and let the podcast begin. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Force of Raven podcast, the brand new spanking updated version. I have the absolute pleasure of being joined today by Fionn, John, and Jordan from the Force of Raven podcast. My name is Peter Morris, and, well, nobody saw this coming, I think it's fair to say. For those somehow out of the loop, Raven has returned, or rather Raven will return officially to CBBC sometime in August of this year. They're recording it over the summer and it will be season 11, and we've got a brand new set of warriors, brand new set of challenges, and a brand new Raven in the form of Alicia Toussaint, with James Mackenzie apparently returning to the series as well. Let's just throw it over to the panel. Let's start with Jordan. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know where you got August from. Like, that's a bit quick to get a series out.
I think August. I think they said it was going to be sometime October, but don't quote me on that. Maybe I'll pull up one of the articles. Anyway, Jordan.
I don't really know what to say, really. It's been a dream of mine for at least 7 years to have a new series.
It's very strange that we've all stuck around this long, kind of like not even holding out hope, I think, in some cases, just wanting to appreciate and reminisce about the show that kind of brought this particular group of friends all together. And yet, it somehow seems to have come back.
It feels like a dream, really. It doesn't feel real. Like, this is a show I've watched since I was 4 years old, and
I loved the various forums responses to it. Some people were saying, my palms were sweating, and they were saying, I'm short for breath. In my case, it was just like, oh, wow, really? Oh, that's good. So you've been watching since like 4, and it feels like a bit like a dream to you.
But I'm now 18, and I've still got that excitement of like, oh my god, Raven's coming back, oh my god, what channel is it on, what time is it on? No. It's just surreal, really.
So I feel like in your case, it's almost kind of reconnecting with your childhood to an extent, because it gives you that same sense of anticipation as you got from just like wanting to get home, 4 o'clock, watch Raven.
Well, I know we weren't really going to discuss it, but it's the same sort of feeling I got from Featherfest as well when we did that. I got a really nostalgic feel when I was doing that, and I'm getting a really nostalgic feeling now as well. Like, to see it coming back to CBBC after so long as well. It feels like the CBBC are actually caring about what the fans want these days. Like, Raven is one of the biggest shows CBBC have ever produced, really, and it's so nice that they're bringing old things back and not just creating cheap, tacky game shows just for the sake of it.
There's a few things to bring up there. Featherfest, for the uninitiated or unaware, is the live action recreation of Raven that we've done a few times. I say we as in like the forum. Myself, I wasn't personally involved with it, which is why I'd love to interview some people who are involved, which I think will be the topic of a future podcast. But you also kind of pointed out the fact that the CBC has kind of shown care towards the fans of Raven. There have been a few like campaigns to petition the channel to bring back Raven. There's obviously been a huge wealth of fan activity in the meantime, but this is the first time I think it seems to have been impactful, and it seems to have come back. How about Fionn? What are your thoughts on the return of Raven?
I'm not sure how to feel, because like Jordan, I wasn't sure if this was just some kind of prank, because if so, it was a very elaborate prank. But if the fact that it's coming back is quite interesting. I mean, this year alone has a lot of good promise for things coming back. I mean, they're bringing back Invader Zim for a new movie. That is terrific. I squealed at that news, and when I heard that Raven was coming back, I was like, really? Okay. No, because it's going to feel so weird watching this show now, looking at a bunch of kids doing a lot of the same stuff I would have done at Featherfest. I mean, it's just... Just a strange feeling.
It's just like, whoa, this happened. The point of like the nostalgia that you brought up, I didn't know about the Invader Sim thing for starters. So okay, that's something else I've just like discovered. What's next? They're gonna like just bring back Firefly just kind of briefly. The closest point I think I have for like the wider, televisual landscape is obviously going to be the Crystal Maze. It was something that, for starters, it's a game show, but it was something that kind of existed before a lot of the time of the people who then discovered it through reruns on various other channels. And then Channel 4 did what was supposed to be a one-off special, which showed there was still some enthusiasm for it, and now they've brought it back for a whole other series. I feel like kind of knowing that the fans were enthusiastic and knowing that this is almost to an extent pandering towards them. Like, you want more Invader Zim? There you go. You want more Crystal Maze? There you go. I feel like what CBC have done here, they know that they can very easily, put something out, and as long as it's high enough quality, they'll be able to get a series of fans that will just be coming back, because there are always going to be people watching CBBC. And I feel like the quality of the content on CBC has actually like moved up and progressed quite a lot since back when I was a fan and back when I did watch the show. So I know stuff like Wolf Blood's been really highly approved. Horrible Histories has been winning BAFTAs and stuff. Jordan?
Very fun fact here. A Raven Warrior is actually starring in Wolf Blood, so it's a nice connection there, really.
I think I remember something about that. I kind of asked on the forum, should I start watching Wolf Blood and the Spartacle Mystery? I feel like I'm going to have to, because I'm interested in writing a kids show at some point potentially, and like having those there as reference points for what's popular, what's good, and maybe what works in those series, what doesn't, is going to be fascinating. But equally fascinating is the fact that there is like someone who the BBC were familiar with, like from when they were a contestant, suddenly starring in one of these shows. I don't think we've gotten to John yet. So, John, your thoughts about the return of Raven?
Well, I mean, I've been part of the forum for it's been a long time since I've been an active member of the forum, and I had basically given up completely. I was just like, right, Raven's done, time to move on to something else. But then when I heard the news, the memories came flooding back about what it was like to watch this show, and I just, I couldn't help myself. I was like, back there, I was sort of reminiscing about all the things I did on the forum and all the series I watched, and yeah, it's just, I didn't expect it to have such an effect, but here I am,
Sorry, that was just me dropping something. We're definitely professionals here, ladies and gentlemen. I joined the forum a bit after you, and I feel like I joined for the same reasons that I joined for the same feelings that you experienced just now, just reminiscing about Raven. I think I joined in 2012, like a couple years after season 10 of Raven had been just cancelled and it kind of finished up. And I got the kind of nostalgic sense from just reminiscing about this show and finding a group of people, which was small but very enthusiastic about the show. And it is a testament to the power of the fandom that this has kind of made such a comeback. But for somebody like you who just said, I gave up at this point, I understand your feelings. I was kind of dipping in and out of the forum only very occasionally, just because I knew that Raven wasn't coming back, and there were certainly things still going on, but maybe nothing that was quite as compelling to me as just watching the show. And yet, here we are. Yeah. It's back in a big way.
It is incredible. Yeah, I really just didn't see it coming. Goodness.
John feels a bit like the prodigal son at the moment. He's just kind of returned, and now he's just going, "Oh God, what have I wrought? What's wrong with this forum? What's wrong with these people?" It's very nice to have you back, and it's very kind of nice to see one of the more old school fans' thoughts on it. So one of the biggest changes that has been announced officially and that we all know about is that Aisha Toussaint, a resident of River City and someone who has acted alongside James Mackenzie previously on that show, is going to be taking over the hosting job and Raven. which is interesting. I feel like this is where we get into all the kind of fan theories, because we know that James Mackenzie is coming back, but we know that Aisha is going to be officially Raven. So what's going on? Let's hear some wild speculation from whoever wants to butt in first. What do you think? How are Aisha and James going to be related or connected on season 11 Raven?
Probably their blood type, because
they share this. That's very that's a big thing in Japan. Apparently, like people who share the same blood type, kind of, it's a big thing over there. I'm not entirely sure what my blood type is. They share raven blood. There's wolf blood, then there's raven blood. I just want to see what the lamest animal that the CBC can make a show out of is. Coming soon. Armadillo blood.
I'm trying to recall, they must have made a show that was really stupid that was based on a specific animal, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, Finn, so you're saying they were kind of blood related. Do you want to elaborate further?
Well, the thing that's odd is that... What? Sorry, Jordan said something weird.
Jordan is whispering to me, it's Fionn. I'm very sorry, it is indeed Fionn.
Oh,
Fionn.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyways, as I was saying, the blood type thing, because James and Aisha, no offense, I don't think they would be related in the sort of conventional way, like, how you'd be related to your biological parents or whatnot.
One of the suggestions was that James was Aisha's father, at least in the show. You seem to be rejecting that a little?
Well, what I mean is that I don't see her as James is the biological father. I see maybe Aisha was adopted, possibly. Adopted and then made...
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Sort of figure for him. But the reason why I bring up the blood thing is because maybe James picked up Aisha because they had similar blood types, and that if Raven ever needs surgery, then he knows who the blood donor should be. But
one day, young warrior, all this land will be yours, and most of your organs will be mine.
Isn't Raven immortal? I don't think he has much to worry about on that front.
Sorry, I feel like we're talking over each other a bit. John?
I was just saying, isn't Raven immortal though? So I don't think he has a lot to worry about there.
There's a few interesting things to point out about what Fionn just said. Obviously, there has been a few people who've suggested maybe James is Aisha's father, but I think what does make more sense is the idea of him being a mentor figure towards her. We've seen in the past that at the end of every regular season, Raven selects a warrior to give the staff of power to. I'm wondering if maybe Aisha's character was an old student of Raven's or an old warrior of Raven's who seems to have kind of taken up the mantle. Fionn?
I was always thinking that Aisha was previously an Ultimate Warrior, but not an Ultimate Warrior from a season that was broadcast, obviously, but maybe more a season that we never got to see. Because for all we know, there could have been many more tournaments since the 10th season.
Yeah. I think that's maybe what I was implying. I think that probably would make the most sense. And also it would be very interesting. It would be would kind of raise the stakes for the future warriors that join, because if you become the Ultimate Warrior, maybe you can become the next Raven following Aisha. Let's hear a theory from, let's go to Jordan this time, and then we'll go back to John. Jordan.
I don't like the fact she's called Raven. She's not Raven.
This has been a point of contention. Some people were delighted by the news that we were having a new host, myself included. I quite like the way Aisha looks and the way I quite like the new Raven stuff, which appears to have the weird ponytail. I'm enthusiastic, but I appreciate that not everybody shares the enthusiasm. But she is Raven, or is she?
I'm not upset that we have a new host. The new host is fine, but I think they should have called her something different, because lots of people is James Mackenzie. James Mackenzie played Raven for 13 series and just to have this girl come in and take. And
having the
not
girls
just-
coming in and ruining Raven for us. No, that's me being harsh, but I do appreciate your point. The fact
No,
that
she's not going to ruin Raven per se, but I think she should have been called something else. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that they called someone who is pretty much the complete opposite of James Mackenzie to calling
they're
her
both
Raven.
pretty
It's
damn
just-
Scottish. I don't want to point out they are both pretty damn Scottish. Okay, here's my own personal thoughts on that, because I agree to an extent and I disagree. I feel like, and I haven't seen the series yet because none of us have, but I feel like where a lot of people are afraid of is that James Mackenzie and James Mackenzie's contributions towards Raven and towards the character and possibly even the title of Raven will be forgotten, will be erased, will kind of be set aside. And I am also as disappointed as everybody else that he will not be returning full time to be the host. That being said, I'm wondering if, because Aisha is Raven, unless barring a Doctor Who style regeneration, barring James Mackenzie like casting his head back, like going like with all the fire like coming out of his arms holes and his head, I feel like the Raven may be something of a symbolic title which comes with a set of powers. And if that's the case, then to this future generation, to this future group of fans, I don't see any problem in, Aisha being Raven per se. Just like some people will not accept any Doctor Who, like after they won't accept Christopher Eccleston and beyond as Doctor Who.
Well, I don't watch Doctor Who, so I don't know what this is all about.
Doctor Who, the idea is that when one actor kind of like replaces the other one, he regenerates into the different Doctor. But that's
the only
'cause he's
problem.
like,
The only problem with Doctor Who was that hadn't left. It just went crap.
sorry.
The whole
We
team.
apologize to all our young fledglings. Okay, we'll try and keep swearing to a minimum.
Oh, come on.
We may fail, but we'll try. Okay.
I'm 8 years old and I'm offended.
Okay. I feel like, we have to kind of accept that we're slightly out of the age demographic that they're appealing to at this point. We are grown men discussing a children's game show on the internet. And as disappointing as it is going to be for us to kind of see James Mackenzie fly the nest, for this future generation who will only know Aisha Tucson as being Raven, fine. She's Raven. And I have no problem in calling her that. How about John? Do you have any fan theories? Do you have anything you want to add to what's been said already?
Yeah, I think that especially if you have James Mackenzie in the show as well, I think you have to call Aisha Raven, because otherwise I think it's just like she's kind of there, but she's like the pretender to the throne kind of thing. And I think that would weaken her impact as host. I really think that, she has to make the role her own. Not to say that, I want James Mackenzie gone or anything, because he was fantastic as Raven. I think we all agree with that. But I think this could be a positive thing. I guess I'm just not sure why they did it. Why they made the change. I mean, it is good, I think, to have a female woman of color to be like an inspirational figure to people. I think that's a good thing. But it's
But
I
it's
don't
kind of as good as you think that is, as good as I think that is, having it come at the expense of like James Mackenzie can be a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
My own personal theory for why he was replaced, I don't think it's because they thought he was doing a bad job, and clearly his heart's still in it. He still goes to like conventions and stuff, specifically to meet fans of this show, specifically to meet his fans from River City, of course, but also from Raven. The reason I think he was replaced, he started the show when he must have been about like 19. He said he literally just got out of his acting school, and that was the first acting job he'd ever properly taken, that role as Raven, way back in series 1 in 2000. I feel like It's now 2017. He's 17 years older. He's, I'm guessing, like 30 something. Now, that doesn't sound particularly old, but in terms of CBBC years, having someone who revitalized the series, having somebody come back to revitalize the series with the same energy and the same youth and the same eagerness to get her name out there as James Mackenzie had back in the day, I feel like it's going to make the show stronger. And I feel like one of the big things that is going to be coming up, if James Mackenzie is still part of the show along with Aisha, then perhaps Aisha has to learn how to be Raven. One of the things that made me very happy about the casting decision was not only has she worked with James in a context other than Raven as part of River City, she's an experienced actress, which James was not when he started, and he was amazing throughout his entire run. And also, she's a Scot, that's a good thing, but mainly she was a fan. She came into this with the same energy and appreciation and enthusiasm, which we all have. And knowing that she's a fan, I think, is just what kind of tips over the edge for me and makes me... I am more okay with this than I have objections to it. I am very much okay with Aisha coming in as the new Raven. And I think she is very much a worthy successor. I'm wondering if James is going to act as kind of like a Yoda figure. He's going to be a mentor. He's going to teach her how to be Raven.
I get that, but when you call James Raven, if he's the mentor to someone else, surely they should have their own name, like maybe like they did with Irvan, have the same letters from Raven and give her a new name. That would have worked.
We're running out of ways we could put together the letters of Raven in which it makes sense. Did you know Navar is Raven backwards?
What?
I feel like I'm wondering if Raven is a symbolic title that gets passed down. I feel like if that's the case, if that's within the continuity of the show, then yes, that makes sense to me. I'm also like, that's kind of, I think, what the biggest challenge towards my whole idea of the mentor theory is that we have Raven teaching Raven, and they're both Raven, and they shall forever be Raven. But I feel like we never saw how James acquired his powers. We never learned much about the origins of Raven.
The mythology is very open, definitely. Yes, we know very little. I think there's a great opportunity for expansion there.
But that's always part of the strength of the show. It leaves us just kind of open enough to write some fan fiction and have our own interpretations. Jordan.
Well, apparently he was born under a tree, but apparently he was born in the Great Oak in the island, and then that story went a bit awry. No one really took it any further, and it would have been very interesting to see how the story of the island would have gone further. And they were actually planning to do something like that, but in the end they ended up going to India and making the Secret Temple instead, which is my favourite series, by the way, apart from series 2. Secret Temple is amazing. And I think it would have been nice to experience more of that storyline, but in the end they didn't really have like the time to actually expand on that story, especially in just a 20 episode series.
I have to agree. I feel like having some more backstory would be quite nice, but I'm wondering at what point it tips over from being, still a show which is primarily about the Warriors, still a show which is primarily about the kids and the changes, to something which maybe is a bit more plot focused, just for the sake of fan service. We don't know what questions are going to be answered. Jordan.
I completely agree with that, because I hate it when there's more backstory and just random plot when we could be seeing the Warriors doing challenges. Like in The Dragon's Eye, you just have random scenes of Irvan just staring into space, telling us our plan, and we're just like, why can't you keep this
get on with it? Yes, get on with it. I feel like, not to criticize The Dragon's Eye, because I think it was a very strong series overall, but it did get a bit repetitive. Fionn.
Can I just point out that Irvan is probably the worst written villain in fiction?
Okay, bit harsh.
I know it's supposed to be a game show and it's not supposed to be its strongest thing, but the whole time they're trying to make Irvan this sort of twist villain, but they keep constantly making him expose his plans like 24/7, and we as the audience are supposed to go like, oh wow, I wonder who the bad guy is. It's definitely not Irvan.
Now, but, I think for young kids, it's like they can feel quite clever, like, oh, that guy's bad, it's like he's the kind of guy you love to hate, kind of thing. For if you're like an older viewer, then yeah, it's a bit obvious, but I don't really have much of a problem with that personally. But I agree about the whole thing. I agree about the whole thing about wanting to see more of the warriors and more of the challenges. That's definitely what attracted me to Raven to begin with. I think there still is room for a bit of expansion, but just because we just know very little about the mythology of the whole thing. But yeah, I don't want it to come at the expense of warriors doing challenges, because that's definitely what I like best about the show.
From what I've gathered from everything that I've read, there does seem like there's going to be more of a focus on plot to an extent. Certainly more of a focus on plot than the usual regular series. And they're also going to check the writing to make sure it's a bit more consistent. It's a bit more, hopefully we'll have like fewer things where Irvan just ends up repeating himself, or we have questions which are left open-ended and unanswered. And I, for one, welcome that challenge.
Looking for tomatoes.
Sorry?
Or spending 3 episodes looking for tomatoes.
Weren't they watermelons? Oh, no, you mean the
watermelons
little...
is Secret Temple.
Watermelons was Secret Temple. The little stone things was in Dragon's Eye. Fionn, you want to say something?
Tomatoes.
Yes, I basically agree with both John and Jordan regarding the challenges thing. I think they should be focusing on that more instead of the plot. In fact, Raven kind of works in a way without the plot. I mean, the plot's nice to have. It gives nice sort of background to the whole event. It's not just some sort of magical Lord of the Ringsy place. It's they tried to develop it a bit. They did that a bit with the earlier seasons. They had things like dragons, they had snakes, they had
spiders, the spiders tunnel,
spiders. But then everything just became skulls, which was just weird. Did all the animals just die out and instead become skulls? Did when Navar take over the planet, he was just like, you know what? I'm sick of these animals. I'm just going to put skulls everywhere, skull rivers and skull
mountain, skull
cakes,
area of forest. I feel like one of the most important parts of Raven was always the stylization. And when the stylization broke down in the later seasons, I'm thinking season 8 to 10, and they changed a few of the designs of things, the same focus on the warriors, the same excellent challenges, the same excellent challenges, the same pacing of the show was still there, but it just kind of looked slightly visually off. And I'm wondering if they're going to kind of correct that by reverting back to the older seasons where they had stuff like the skulls, or they had all the various animals and vines and various other things which built the immersion. Or I'm wondering if they're going to kind of take that aesthetic and then work with it a bit further. They're going to try and fix it. So this fusion of the newer series of Raven, I say newer, they are old at this point, the kind of newer color palette, the newer styling of it, while also like remaining true to the nature of the show, as it being a sort of Celtic medieval type feeling towards it. Okay. So while we're speaking about all the challenges and the warriors being focused on the show, one of the changes we do know about is that rather than the typical 6 warriors a week, there's going to be 16 warriors per season. So I've just got any thoughts about how they're going to divide that up, what you think is going to be how you think they're going to make that work, whether that will work. I'll throw it open, but let's start with...
It made me cringe.
Why?
Because I don't like change, and I've been so used to the same format for
10 seasons and for 3 spin-offs.
15 years I've been used to the same format of the show, and it just seems they're changing everything for no reason.
Well, you say no reason, but we know there's going to be 15 episodes rather than the usual 20. I think that maybe I feel like that maybe they were only given 15 and they kind of had to make the best of that. That's the feeling I get anyway. I don't have any proof, but that's just what I think.
I also
feel
want
like-
to point out there's also a season 12 coming out, so when that comes out, they might change the number from 16 to 20 because 11 might just be a pilot season. See what works and what doesn't.
They're filming Series 11 and Series 12 at the same time, I believe. That's why they advertised it for children 9 to 13, because the children who are 9 who got into the show will probably be on Series 12.
That's a huge age range, 9 to 13. I'm quite surprised that they've opened it up that much. There's a huge difference between someone aged 9 and someone aged 13 in terms of their physical capabilities.
Right, to be fair, there are a few Warriors who were 10 when they were on the show, so...
Give a 9-year-old some sugar and then let them loose and tell me that they aren't at least as strong as... Okay, there's a few things I want to point out there. Everybody seems to just ended up kind of like talking and darting back and forth. There's a few points I want to pick out on. It does seem to be a bit of a change, and I understand the kind of hesitation towards change that a lot of us have because we grew up with this series and we hold it slightly dear. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see how it works. I do prefer having more Warriors and seeing like more people kind of duke it all out together. But at the same time, one of the big flaws of the earlier seasons was that we barely got to know these Warriors personally. We got to see them do challenges, but we didn't connect with them personally in a way that we did with maybe the spin-off seasons. So stuff like the Secret Temple, even though we weren't given a lot of characterization, we still got some inkling of the Warriors' personalities. We saw them form friendships. We saw them kind of join up together with each other. And I feel like that never was adequately explored in a lot of the main regular series.
Yeah, but in this series, we're only going to see the winner for 6 episodes rather than 10. So
there's a point. Yeah. I guess I'm just going to have to reserve judgment for how it works. I understand your reservations at the very least. I'm still completely excited for it. I'm still actually quite looking forward to the new format for the reason that there's fewer maybe personalities to focus on. Everybody will get a bit more of a fair shout. But at the same time, yes, it doesn't invalidate everything you're saying. There is a lot to be kind of concerned about, but I'm withholding my judgment. I'm still looking forward to it. Any mild problem I have is overcome tenfold by my excitement of Raven returning. That's maybe all I can think about. Anybody else have any thoughts on having the different number of contestants, including yourself, Jordan, if you want to say something?
Well, I let's see. So it's going to be. We know that it's going to be 4. There's going to be 4 Warriors every week in quick inverted commas every 3 days. So I think you're right in that having that, because when you have 6 Warriors, it is quite difficult to get to know some of them, especially if they go out early. So I think that is definitely a positive that you could apply there. The only thing I am worried about is that I hope they still have Way of the Warrior, because I think that to me is just Raven right there. I don't think you can take that out, really.
I'm really hoping they won't. So that's one of the things I did want to ask you guys. I wanted to ask you guys maybe a bit later what you wanted to see in the upcoming season. But I'll just kind of end on one final point about the number of Warriors. We've seen seasons which have had 60 Warriors overall. We saw the 3 spin-off seasons. And the fact that they're changing the format slightly so that these Warriors are competing against each other rather than working in a team concerns me a little bit, but I feel like there's still room for teamwork and team challenges. I'll just have to see how they'll balance it. I feel like it's much better when the Warriors get a chance to interact and get a chance to play off each other and get a chance to really get to know each other, and we see that process happening rather than just kind of necessarily them all like duking out in the traditional Raven-style warfare. But I'll see what they'll do with the new season. That being said, that's what I want to see. What do you guys want to see in the upcoming season? How about
the Warrior?
Warrior. Okay. I don't think we've started with Fionn yet. I don't know. Somebody jump in. Tell me what you want to see.
Gadgets.
What?
Yes.
I want to see Gadget in series 11 and 12.
Gadgets? Like Gadget?
He was a Series 4 warrior. He is God. He is everything. He is amazing. He is
Can't
everything to
have the
everyone.
previous warriors return. They're all sad 21-year-olds like me. Okay?
Gadget is God.
There's two reasons we're not having the adult contestants return. Number one, it's incredibly unfair to the children if somebody just like powers through and ends up just like whacking them with a staff or just like outsmarting them or getting all the riddles right. Just goes into the way of the warrior, just like bashes everything out. But number two, it's humiliating for the adults if they're beaten by the small children.
Sure, that means nothing, because one time my dad nearly tried to join me into a Taekwondo club when I was 15, and most of the kids there were 5 and 6.
Jeez.
So it's not uncommon.
I think we're going to gloss over the fact that Fionn has just admitted to taking a lot of pleasure in punching small children and instead go over to Jordan's hopes for the new season, other than having World Warriors return.
Just to go back to the Way of the Warrior point, I have a feeling the Way of the Warrior will be twice a week. I have a feeling it'll be on the second day when the first warrior leaves, and it will be on the last day just before the last stand. It goes through from every week. So I've got a feeling they're going to do it the way they did it in the last day of a lot of series, where the third place warrior does the Way of the Warrior, goes home, and the top two do the last stand together, and the winner goes through. I think that would work, and I also think it's just a quote. It's a quote from the BBC that I've heard, but they said they're going to be full to the brim with challenges.
That would be exciting.
I have a feeling they may be going from 5 to 6 challenges a day to maybe compensate the fact we're losing 2 days of a week, really, and we're not going to see the Warriors do as many challenges as they would.
And that would also help the pacing of the show a little. Raven has always had excellent pacing, but having challenges which go at an even faster speed, having fewer challenges which can be a bit boring or a bit repetitive to watch, having fewer challenges where we see everybody's individual attempt, which takes about like 2 or 3 minutes. I feel like that could really help the pacing.
Having 4 warriors doing one challenge, the challenge will be over quicker as well. So it will be they'll have more time to fill in more video diaries. I know they're not having the same scoring as last time. They're changing the scoring, but they may have a certain type of scoring scene, and they may introduce an extra challenge to a day. That's something we need to think about as well. Like they may just completely, to compensate for the fact we're losing 2 days a week, they might add an extra challenge in just to please the fans that are not really open to much change.
You're just listing ways. This is what they could do to win me back. I will not accept anything else. I'm relatively open-minded. I don't want to keep hammering home this point, but I do want to say that I'm relatively open-minded towards changes, because I feel like there needs to be something that distinguishes the old guard of Raven. Just like it needs to be something that changes from the old Doctor Who over to the new Doctor Who, or the old Crystal Maze over to the new Crystal Maze, or the old Top Gear over to the new Top Gear, to the even newer Top Gear. When these things happen, they're never going to keep everything exactly the same. There's going to be different people who are brought in. The formula is going to be reworked. But as long as the ethos of the show is captured, they always succeed and they always have long and healthy runs. So obviously it's a bit disappointing that, maybe they don't have a live system anymore. Maybe James isn't hosting. Maybe they're cutting down the numbers of Warriors a week. But as long as they can make it work, and as long as they can make it entertaining, I feel like we'll forget all that quite quickly when we watch it. We may be acutely aware of it more so than the new fans who are going to be in that age range of 9 to 13. But even so,
don't get me wrong. I am very excited that Raven is coming back. I'd rather have some sort of Raven than no Raven at all. It's just at the moment, I'm sure I will love it when it comes back on TV. It's just the things.
We're going to hold you to this now. We're going to get you back on the first episode, and we're going to play that clip of you saying, "I'm sure I will love it." So that when you just like burst into tears, just like it's more beautiful than I could even imagined. Oh no, we're going to bring up all the bits where you've just been like bad mouthing it.
I'm not bad mouthing it. I'm not bad mouthing it. I love the fact that they're bringing it back. It's just the format that I'm so used to. Like I've been watching reruns of Raven more than everybody else. I've been watching Raven from when I joined the forum. I was watching Raven constantly until I was about 16.
You're obsessed.
I was obsessed. I'm not now, baby. Don't worry. I think once I get to know the show and get to know Aisha and get to know the new format and the new challenges, I will really enjoy it. It's just now we have nothing concrete to really compare
work
it to.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no comparison point because they are changing the series quite a lot, but you know, they're still keeping some aspects the same and some they're changing, and we don't know how much is going to be consistent with what we had before and how much is going to be otherwise. Fionn will have your point, we'll have your point, and then I think we'll hear John's kind of closing thoughts on what he wants to see from this new season.
Well, I would like to see the return of Way of the Warrior. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like seeing a little obstacle course of death where a bunch of little kids get crushed under the sheet?
More children need to have like swinging blades just generally put in their face.
However, bringing back the Last Stand, they need to bring back the chocolate waterfall. That was the greatest thing that was ever been created by humanity.
The chocolate waterfall.
The chocolate waterfall they have to climb up in Castle Howard. If that was brought back, I would be a happier man. Now,
Demon Square doesn't come back, I'm going to cry.
I have no idea how much better this remake will be, because you know remakes can be a little bit mixed. I mean, I've been excited for remakes in the past only to watch them and go, wow, this is nothing like I imagined. This has just ruined my impression of the original work. But hopefully Raven actually maybe even improves on it, and who knows, maybe we can start seeing the new method as the better method over the old one. But I'm not sure, because as Jordan has said, the newer method is a little smaller scale and not really as good. And really, if it doesn't all work out, then maybe the producers will see the error of their ways if they're planning on making future seasons, that they can just sort of make a new method. I mean, that's probably why season 1 existed, because season 1 had a lot of holes with its format, but by the time season 2 came, they more or less had the traditional rule set that they had for the next few seasons. So
they chopped and they changed and they improved, and there's more fan engagement now than ever because we're still here, the old guard is still here, the old guard is still making content specifically relating to Raven still, but also they're going to have a new bunch of fans that come in and will have their own opinions on what they like and don't like, and they can tweak things and change things to that as well. I feel like they know what they're doing because there's just enough people who are in the original Raven, who I'm hoping are still going to be involved in this as well. So hopefully all the expertise that they had, they'll bring over. John, your thoughts on what you want to see in the upcoming series?
There's not a lot I think that they could do to really, you know, turn me off the new series. As long as they have, like I say, I really want Way of the Warrior back because I think that was the iconic challenge. But yeah, other than that, I just want some good challenges that test, like, I like challenges that test multiple things at once, I suppose. There's especially ones that like balance speed and care. I'm a sucker for those kind of things because like you make a mistake and you're done. But yeah, I mean, as long as they have a good mix of challenges, then hey, I'll be a happy man.
One of the things I've heard various people say is that they'd kind of like to see the old Warriors race done away with because it was just a canoe race and be replaced with a skill-based challenge or maybe something like an obstacle course akin to Way of the Warrior or the Last Stand. I personally, this is quite interesting. I personally would like to see a strategy game played, a very simple strategy game so that everybody can understand it at home. But something that nonetheless tests the Warriors' kind of strategic minds. We've seen them do intelligence tests before. We've seen them like try and solve puzzles. We've seen them solve puzzles as races against each other. We've seen them try and crack riddles. But I don't think we've seen something which would be a simple strategy game, which two people can play against each other. See how different the combat there is. They're very good at filming combat. They can make two 11-year-olds flailing around and bashing each other with pointy sticks with big rubber foam things on them. I'm sure they can do the same thing with a simple battle of wits. That's personally what I would like to see, but there's doubtless going to be new challenges in this series as well. I really want to see the new challenges. I want to see the inventiveness and the creativity that they've come up with the new challenges.
Just to touch on your point about Warriors race, I have heard a rumor that all the Warriors are going to be, from each week, are going to wear the same emblem.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're going to be, the 4 in each week are going to have the same emblem, and there'll be 1 from each in the final. So part of me thinks they may start off as a team, doing the first challenge, and then they'll split.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
that also kind of feeds back into what I was saying, that I would like to see these people work in a team at some point before kind of being tested more individually. I feel like when we think about the spin-off seasons, what was good was there were aspects which tested the Warriors' strength as a team, but then they were tested individually as well in various different challenges. And nothing felt out of place within the canon of Raven, even though it was taking place with an entirely different stylization on an entirely different continent. So I feel like they can do whatever the hell they want. Sorry, PG-13. They can do whatever they want. Somebody will have dropped something way worse than that during this throwback, and we're just going to shock all the poor 11 and 13-year-olds who are going to join this forum come October. But no, they can make so many different things work, and I feel like not necessarily having any precedent for it, not necessarily having the last season be 2 years ago, or all the fans of this series have grown up. Like, unless you started watching when you were age 6 and you only caught the last season of Raven, then you are at this point an adult, or at the very least a young adult. So knowing that they have these fans to kind of live up to, but also that they're mainly going to be targeting at this new generation, it gives them a lot more creative freedom. They can do so much more. They can introduce new challenges like they always do. They can keep some old favorites. I just have to see what they do with it. John, I don't know if there was a point there, a question. I think we kind of exhausted the question.
I think I was pretty much done with what I had to say with respect to that point.
Yeah, I just can't wait. There's so much stuff we want to see, but at the same time, I don't feel like I'll be too disappointed if they don't include stuff like Way of the Warrior or Last Stand. I will be a little, of course, but I don't think I'll be too disappointed because I want to see the new challenges as well. I want to see how they're going to test these kids in an entirely new and entirely different way to what they've done before. Okay, so I feel like we've discussed an awful lot of things. I'll be more than happy to draw it to a bit of a close there, but let's touch on a few final points. Give me your quick recap. Somebody at the BBC, by some disgusting freak accident of nature, just so happens to be watching this. What do you say to him or her to get them to make the show better for you? What do you want to say to the BBC? Let's start with John.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for bringing this back, because I certainly didn't see it coming. Just as long as you really test those kids, just don't hold back. Don't
go easy on them. Make them
don't
cry.
go easy on them. They've got to suffer their way to the top. No, but I just really want to see them. I really want to see them tested, because I think that's when you see that's when you see their mettle and their characters shine through. So, yeah, just give them some tough ones,
one of the things which my mum always liked about the show was that they did not go easy on the kids, which probably says a lot more about my mum than about the show. But they don't. There is no like encouragement for failure or something. It's just you go out there, you try your absolute best. It might not always work, but you are tested. You do feel like you're being treated as an adult almost. Your actions have consequences. Everything is kept, within the space that this show operates in. There's no second chances. You just go out there, you do your best, and you do or die. And I feel like that's probably quite a good message to teach, knowing that these kids can try very hard and seeing just how well they do when they're confronted with such enormous challenges. Let's go to Jordan next.
Bring Demon Square back or I'll kill you.
Come on.
Like that challenge is one of the best challenges. Like when it first came about, it was probably no one had ever thought of something like that before. It was a very unique type of challenge, and I think they need something like that to test the kids mentally. Because from the show, you can learn from challenges like that. Viewers at home can play along; they can learn as well. And I'd also love to see some combat because we haven't had any combat challenges. 8, like Longstaff, all of that wasn't in 9 or 10. So it would be very nice to have a challenge like that back.
I'm wondering if the policy towards that has changed, but I'm hoping it hasn't because I do agree with you. Even if, having mock combat, as Raven always emphasized that, and they always showed the kids shaking hands afterwards, there was never any hard feelings, never any real feelings of aggravation between the contestants. I feel like having a combat challenge again would be nice. You carry on your point?
Well, I would say combat challenges are very fun, but my experience of a combat challenge only lasted 2 seconds.
The Featherfest podcast or the Featherfest retrospective podcast hopefully will be coming soon, and we can relive that moment in all 2 seconds of its glory. I'm always acutely aware that if I had gone on Raven as a kid, I would have sucked. I was not particularly good at the riddles. I very frequently got everything wrong on Demon Square. But
you would have had a heck of a lot of fun, wouldn't you?
I would have had the time of my life. I would have just been terrible at everything. I was I have developed no muscle mass since I was age 12. I could still go on the show and get resoundingly beaten by any 9-year-old that had a monster within the past half hour. Okay. I feel like let's close out with Finn's thoughts. I'll give my own closing thing, and I think we'll call it a day. Sorry, Fionn. God damn it! I'm so sorry as well. I will stop saying all these. I will stop being rude. Okay, sorry, Fionn.
BBC, it is simple. Gadgets and chocolate waterfall, please. Also, maybe consider bringing back the Treetop Treasure music, I guess. I don't know why.
Height challenges were always quite fun to watch, yeah.
Yeah. I like the climbing challenges.
Well, not too many, though, because in later series there are a lot of challenges based in heights, and I'd like a bit of variety, like new challenges that you can see yourself doing.
Yeah, I feel like if you have too many height challenges, then it kind of tests the same thing over and over, and the perils reduced slightly. But, there's always going to be stuff like Leap of Faith. There's always going to be some stuff which is just so ubiquitous and so easy to film that it'll probably make a comeback. I don't know for sure, but they might do. Anybody else have anything to add before I give my thoughts?
Not really.
I'll take that. Yeah. Okay, I'll take that as no. Dear Mr. and Mrs. BBC, we are viewing the show as adults. We're viewing people who are looking at it with the rose-tinted goggles of nostalgia and also the clarity of adulthood, and having the suspension of disbelief we had reduced somewhat. But the new kids that are going to be watching the show will not have those luxuries. They'll be experiencing it for the first time with fresh eyes. Please feel free to make any changes you want. But remember that the legacy that we remember Ravenlings is going to be what connects us to these new fans, connects us to the new series, and connects us to the BBC. Make something to the absolute best of your ability, and you will have risen to the challenge. Thank you very much for watching us. I'd like to thank my amazing panel, Fionn, John, and Jordan, everybody. Give yourselves a mild round of applause. Mild round of applause. Mild round of applause. Mild round of applause. And until next time, young warriors, may the luck of the Raven's eye be with you all. Thank you very much.